If you want to manage your minerals like the pros, you need a copy of this document. This is part 2 of our series on minerals management, and we're talking about source deeds, what they are, why they matter, and where you can find yours. So stay tuned and learn something. Howdy folks, welcome back to the Minerals Guy channel. On this channel, we share tips on minerals management, mineral valuation, and how to achieve maximum value for your mineral rights. If you're getting value from our content, please be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons so that you get notified when we post new videos. For those of you new to the channel, my name is Stephen Hatcher and I'm the creator of Minerals Guy. I acquire and manage mineral assets for a living. I'm also an oil and gas attorney with over a decade of experience buying, selling, and developing oil and gas properties all across the country. I created Minerals Guide to provide tailored content to oil and gas, mineral, and royalty owners just like you, with the goal of educating and empowering them to understand more about minerals as an asset class and the potential value of their mineral rights. We also help mineral sellers to retire, send kids to college, get out of debt, take risk off the table, and to pursue the things in life that mean the most to them. If we can be a service to you or someone you know, you can schedule a consultation on our website, mineralsguide.com. But regardless of whether you're interested in selling, we want to be your go-to resource for all things mineral rights. In this series, we're talking about minerals management and how to manage your mineral rights like the pros. We're talking about how to get organized. We're talking about all the operative documents that impact your mineral rights, and we're helping you build your own minerals management file. So let's jump in. So what is a source deed and why do I care? A source deed is a deed or other instrument that grants you ownership in the mineral rights to a specific piece of property. It is the source of your ownership in that piece of property. And your source deed can tell you a lot. It'll tell you the type of ownership interest that you have, any limitations on your ownership, and it will tell you the exact legal description of the property that you own. Now, your source deed can take a couple of different forms. First is a deed, a cash sale deed, or a credit deed. And these are deeds that convey both surface and minerals. If you purchased a piece of land and the mineral rights were included when you bought that property, then we're talking to you. As we discussed in our last series, Mineral Rights Explained, the rights to the minerals are inherent in the ownership of any piece of property. They can be owned together with the surface of the property, or they can be separated or severed from the surface and owned separately. If you have questions about how mineral estates are created and transferred, you'll see a link to that series up above. The source of your ownership in mineral rights could also be from a reservation in a deed. This typically happens where someone owns both the surface and the minerals and sells the surface, reserving all or a portion of the mineral rights. So rather than a deed where you are granted an interest in a piece of land, right? So you would be the grantee. In the case of a reservation, you are actually the party selling the property. You are granting the property subject to this reservation. Your source deed could also take the form of a mineral or royalty deed, which are deeds that convey all or a portion of a mineral estate. Now, a mineral deed conveys all of the rights of a mineral estate, while a royalty deed is more limited and conveys the right to receive a royalty only. Finally, your source deed could also take the form of a judgment issued by a court. Now, a great example of this are Louisiana successions, which is the equivalent of the probate process. In a Louisiana succession, the judge will issue what's called a judgment of possession, placing heirs of the deceased in possession of inherited property. And this judgment formally transfers title to the property. So how do you find a copy of your source deed? Well, these instruments have to be recorded in the official public records of the county or parish where the property is situated in order to be effective against third parties. So if you don't have a copy of this instrument, you can get a copy from the clerk of court for the county or parish where the property is situated. Nowadays, most clerks of court have their records available to the public online. So go to the website for your local clerk of court and you're going to want to search the records by your legal name. And note that if your name has changed, let's say you got married, you're going to want to run the search using your married name and your maiden name. Now, it may cost you a few dollars to purchase a copy of your deed or to be able to print it, but in my opinion, it's well worth spending that money to have a copy of your source deed. Now, what if you can't find your source deed? So you've searched and searched, but there's no document in the public records legally transferring the property to you. This is actually more common than you think and happens frequently when someone dies owning property. But probate or succession proceedings are never opened to legally transfer the property to their heirs. Now, if this is the case for you, you've got a couple of options. The first option is to hire an estate attorney and go through a probate or succession proceeding. And this is going to cost a couple of $1,000. Or two, if the estate is small enough, most states have laws that allow heirs to be placed into possession of property without going through full-blown probate proceedings. These are known as small successions. If you have questions about transferring the property of a loved one to you after their death, you can do some research online, but I would highly recommend that you get in touch with a qualified estate attorney. Part 3, reviewing your deed. So what do you look for as you're reviewing your source deed? I want you to think about these 3 questions: who, what, and when. So the first question to answer is who, or who is the grantee or the party receiving the property. This should be you, but there could also be other grantees or co-owners listed in the source deed. Now the second question is what, or what property is being conveyed. And to answer this question, we're going to want to look at the legal description for the property contained in the source deed. Is it one tract or multiple tracts? Does the property description recite the number of acres conveyed? Now, we're going to need the legal description if you want to find your property on a map. And we're actually going to do that together later in this series, so stay tuned for that. The next thing to look for is any exceptions, limitations, or reservations in the deed. Are there any carve-outs for tracts not conveyed? So property description followed by language like less and except. Is the deed made subject to other agreements such as easements, right-of-ways, or potentially even oil and gas leases? Finally, look for any reservations in the deed, such as a reservation of a portion of the mineral rights. And here's the answer to a question that I get all the time. What if your source deed is silent and doesn't say anything about mineral rights? Well, minerals do not have to be specifically enumerated in a deed to be conveyed. A grant of all right, title, and interest in and to a piece of property will convey minerals if the grantor himself owned the minerals at the time he executed the deed. Now, the third question to answer is when, or when was the deed executed? And this could be pretty important depending on where you live. For example, in Louisiana, if a mineral servitude is created pursuant to your source deed, the date of the deed is going to be critical for determining 10-year prescription of non-use and expiration of that mineral servitude. So what's next? The next document for your minerals management file is your oil and gas lease, which is the operative contract between you and the oil and gas operator. Now you may be saying, Stephen, I already have a copy of my lease. That's great, you're one step ahead. But you're gonna wanna tune in because we're gonna answer 4 key questions that every mineral owner should know about their oil and gas lease. So stay tuned for just a few more seconds and you'll see a link to episode 3 at the end of this video. If you're getting value from our content, don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so that you get notified as we post new videos. If you have any questions for us, you can reach us on our website, mineralsguide.com. You can also reach me by email, Stephen@mineralsguide.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.